access. Raj is right now arriving at Atlanta Airport. Which is obviously a two-dimensional drawing because it is on an area. It was purchased by the city of Atlanta. They had the vision to build an airport that became the icon, you'll see why, icon of constructal design in the movement of people on Earth, except that, unlike the city block, the Atlanta airport was not copied from anything. It did not have a history of centuries like an old city in Europe, but it had an objective, which was to provide access to anybody, meaning to every nobody that arrived at any gate and had access to any other gate. The most important of all the gates is the terminal, also known as the meeting point. So movement on the area was the objective. How do you measure movement? Well, you measure it in terms of access. How do you measure access in an airport? Well, one measure, in addition to, never mind, would be the time you spend from any point to any other point. Any point means area. And any other point means the target gate, such as this one, you see? So in this case, meaning in this example, which I called the Atlanta Airport design before the design was conceived, the objective was to provide access from point to area, which is the same as saying from area to point. I define what area means. It means any point. And access for whom? For the individual. The individual, we're talking about today, this is a modern human being. The individual ceased being a prehistoric person a long time ago. Back in prehistory, hunting and gathering, for example, before the wheel appeared, people were walking. This is much earlier than domesticated animals, when people started to ride horses and so on. So walking is movement that's slow and short distance. Now, each of us today have access to a whole range of higher speeds by riding vehicles, meaning fast and long. This 1-2 punch is the reason why each of us is incomparably more powerful and with much, much greater access than prehistoric humans. We, especially your generation, takes this for granted. But these are facts, and if you really pay attention, you'll find them throughout nature. River water made this discovery, billions of years ago, by coming up with its own 1-2 punch or tandem of slow and fast. Water on the ground flows slow as seepage, wet river banks, and channeled flow. A channel exists because water seeps into it, short and slow, from the sides. The sides exist, meaning they don't get drowned in mud, because the channel drains them away. You see, so these two populations of movement are coexisting in harmony. One drains the other, or one feeds the other. And that is what's happening to the population that inhabits this area. Now, so in this direction of creating greater access, let's say more access, this is the direction of the evolution of the idea. In time, in the minds of these visionaries. The airport was inaugurated in 1955, where there was almost no commercial jet travel. Imagine, today airports are sprouting all over, and they look like what you'll see here. Anyway, they had to think about it. In this case, where do you put the cheapest version of the long and fast, meaning the one train line on a rectangular territory of unknown shape? In the beginning, what was purchased was the size, not the shape. But the shape, which means this dimension versus the other, the shape was unknown. You see here, I'm in fact giving away the punchline. There is 1 degree of freedom in the joke, and it is the shape called L over H. So L over H will be the degree of freedom, which, if exploited, will take us along this path of imagining the design before it is built. I see, and it's amazing for you to have in your head something that should exist. That means, if you think this way, you predict the future. In this case, the future of what was to happen on this piece of land outside of the city of Atlanta. So on a rectangle, where do you put the fast and long? Long story here. You can put the train vertically, you can put it horizontally, you can put the train line along one of the edges, or you can put it closer to the midline. Play with this discussion with yourselves, and you come to the conclusion that the train should be collinear with the longer of the two axes of symmetry. That is when access for everybody will be served best. But I got carried away by my own performance here. I was beginning to ask you whether you know what object means, because you cannot talk about objective unless you know what object means. So first of all, none of you, with one exception, thank you, knew what nature was. What is object?
Also, a thing that exists.
What?
A thing.
What?
An object.
What is object?
A thing that.
A thing.
Exists,
Correct. Yeah, but literally, what is it? So that was what I was asking. I'll get to you in a second, okay? You are the other one who raised your hand.
Yeah, but I don't get what you're getting at.
Say what now?
I don't understand what you're getting at. If it's not a thing, what is an object?
No. What does the word object means? What is the origin?
Oh, okay. I think I can try this.
Huh?
Okay. So, object is kind of like throwing, right?
Exactly. Very good. Yes.
It's like,
So you've heard of alea iacta est? You don't remember? Caesar, when he decided to march on Rome to basically get rid of the Republic, he crossed the river called Rubicon, which is just south of Bologna, and with his army. He was coming from Gaul, today's France. And for him to say that there was no way going back, meaning that he is taking this chance of going to Rome, he said, alia iacta est. Iacta means thrown. That is you say, the dice is cast. Dice, the game of throwing these cubes with dots on them, is a Roman game of chance. So, yes, thrown. So, the object is thrown. Ob means in front. In front, okay? That's why you find ob in obstacle. The obstacle is something that brings you to rest, meaning to lack of movement. So yes, so object is something that's in front. And it's a thing. It will have design very soon. And objective is this attitude of pursuing what is in front. All right, enough of linguistics. Let's continue. So, what about access on this territory? You can imagine a person contemplating this question for himself or herself, and then you can calculate the travel time required by the person from its gate of origin to the meeting point. You can do that for any other person on the same rectangular territory. And in this way, you can calculate a travel time averaged over the entire area, that is travel time from the area to the point. And then you find a formula. I'm telling you what I'm not going to show you. You find a formula between this area average travel time and the lone degree of freedom, which is the shape. It turns out, this is what you know if you studied mathematical analysis correctly in high school. It turns out that you can get the same result much faster if you take if you display more humility, you see, and put yourself in the shoes of the least advantaged traveler. The least advantaged traveler arrives at this gate. And this person has to walk in order to get to the terminal. And obviously, the walk is slow. And then continue by riding. And riding is faster. Actually, a lot faster. And so, the access, or lack of access, perceived by the least advantaged person, which is called the person arriving at the gate P, is easy to figure out. It's the distance h divided by 2 divided by this speed called v0, and then the time of riding, which is L over v1. See how simple this course is? This is middle school, not high school. This is the first year you learn algebra. I learned in 4th grade algebra, but that's the way it was back then. And then you say, hey, wait a minute, Adrian is wrong. He's got 2 degrees of freedom, this dimension and this dimension. Of course, they both vary, don't they? Because I told you this area could be this way, it could be shallow, or it could be more like a square. So where did I go wrong? Obviously, I didn't go wrong because I've taught this course many times before. And the answer is that, let's call it height, even though everything is horizontal. Gravity here doesn't come in. This dimension and L, they are not independent of each other. They are connected by the so-called money or area that had to be purchased. And this is known. Or you could assume it fixed, which means that you are telling a story of how every airport should be built regardless of its size, large or small. So this is also known as constraint in those who teach optimization, and that's a word that I will have to define for you very soon. Not to be parroted or spoken without thinking, optimization. So I'll spend time on that. And because of the constraint, then I have a choice of H or L when it comes to the single degree of freedom. If I choose H to be the degree of freedom, then L becomes A over H. And that makes the so-called measure of access a function of H only. You get the idea that these two terms vary in opposite directions when the degree of freedom is changed. If H increases, the first term increases, the second one decreases. In other words, you have an antagonism between the two contributions to lack of access, those being the time spent moving on the area. And in other words, you begin to smell the presence of a minimum time at because of the competition between two competing effects. There are two ways in which to come up with the answer to what is the drawing that offers greatest access. The way that's pursued blindly, especially now with computational techniques, is to find the extremum of this function, meaning to take the derivative of this time with respect to what varies, and set it equal to 0, and that takes you to an answer which I'll give here because I'm not going to spend time on that, which is that L over H optimal, meaning for minimum travel time, is V1 over 2V0. In other words, the high speed divided twice the low speed. Now you know that this ratio is greater than 1. How do you know? Well, next time you are in Atlanta airport, you arrive at that door where you're supposed to get on the train, and you just missed the train. And then you decide to run from that particular gate underground, run to the next stop by doubling your walking speed. The name for that is running. And when you get to the other stop of the train, you find that the train beat you to it, you see? So that's how you know that this ratio is greater than 1. I don't recommend that you do that. You can take my word, but that's the way animal design has been made, which is why vehicles became indispensable, because they they beat running, not walking. So this course is not about teaching you how to take the first derivative and set it equal to 0. This course is about challenging the status quo. Okay? And my next move, which is exactly that, is to act as if I don't know calculus. I don't know calculus. But I do have a brain. So here's the answer coming from that position of thought. You look at the expression shown here, and you can actually draw this function of time spent versus the lone degree of freedom. And by the way, why should you be able to draw if you do not know calculus? Because mathematics began with making drawings called geometry. And it began that way because in antiquity, people were scratching on the wet sand of the beach things, such as the one I just erased, rectangles and triangles and the shapes of their own little plot of land that was to be planted, because that's what geometry means, to measure the land. So making drawings is how science began. Geometry was the first chapter of science. This is where you should have the aha that art and science are one, not two, like on this campus. Art and science are one. They have to do with mental viewings, which are these things called nature. And so yes, this time from that corner to the meeting point versus h has two terms. Yeah, I call them 1 and 2. By the way, since I was talking about antiquity, how do you say 1 and 2 in Latin? Now listen. So remember this question next time you have a drink with somebody. The answer is not unus duo. It is Roman 1 and Roman 2. You see, that's how you say 1 and 2 in Latin. Okay. And the first one is a linear rise from 0, 0. The second one, now we're getting fancy, is known as equilateral hyperbola, which is kind of the opposite of the linear growth. It is a equilateral descent. And these two curves, when added in the vertical direction, give you the shape of interest. Let's do that addition, which is graphic. It means that at the point of intersection, I'll have that. Oh, something else. At the point of intersection, these positive slope added to the negative slope. From graphics, I know the minimum time occurring at the intersection, or near, the intersection of Roman 1 with Roman 2. That's a lot easier than having to grow up in school and learn calculus. So let's find out what happens if I set Roman 1 equal to, sorry, of the same order of magnitude, because the drawing is as precise as my craftsmanship, you see. So h over 2v0. This sign means equal in an order of magnitude sense. This is the fingerprint of my humility. I'm not so sure about exactness here, but I'm pretty sure about being right in this realm of intelligence called not picking nits. And the second term is the second term was A over H is actually L over V1. Which of course takes you to the conclusion that L over H should be in an order of magnitude sense the same as 2V0 over V1. This is the aha moment, which is that the cheap and fast way coincides in terms of predicting or falls right on top of the exact conclusion. So two ways to skin the cat, but this one is faster to you, the thinker, meaning cheaper. But faster really means to you life-saving, because it means you'll have more time to spend on other things, to contemplate new ideas or new questions and come up with good things for yourself and those who interest you. So the conclusion then is that we have a shape called H over L optimal, to which the time of access is minimal. That means, so this particular point, the belly button of the curve, is important as an idea. This is the object, how should I say, thrown in front of you. Yeah. And okay. In the course, I'll call this design, this particular shape, which happens to be essentially very close to this, showing that the designers of the Atlanta airport were visionaries, because the airport has this shape. You see, in 1955, I was 7 years old and with zero access. So they came up with it on their own. This is the idea, and I call it perfection. Corresponding to, meaning perfection in this drawing, is a point in 2 dimensions. On the horizontal is the optimum, and on the ordinate is the minimum. Now, these are Latin words. They are both superlatives. Optimum means the best. Minimum means the smallest. And And the so-called point or design is, meaning the point is of zero size, it means the design is unique. Unique. So perfection is one design. And it's okay for that design to be in the mind of the person who thought this way for the first time. Let me continue on the path to humility. And and imagine that most people, even those who know calculus, really don't have time to to propose such a point and to persuade others to build something so obviously superior and true. Most people go with what works. And if you take a look at this drawing, you recognize that in the vicinity of the unique design with superlative performance, there are other designs that are close to performing the same way. And maybe some of these designs, when we talk about building something on an area, drainage here, or a little hill here, or whatever, a crack in the ground here, why be precise in a place that by nature has random or accidental features? And from this comes the most important aha, which is that to know or to be fixated on the idea, which means ideology, to be fixated on the perfection when it comes to having access is a lot more expensive than keeping in mind that in the vicinity of the best, there's a diversity of competing, I would say equally competing designs. So you have diversity, which happens naturally from the urge of the designer to make a decision and move on. And the diversity comes from the designer's willingness to live with a small degree of imperfection or deviation or departure from perfection. So this tiny dimension called imperfection which comes from the designer's freedom to decide and move on, comes this multitude of designs that are similar to the best, but not exactly the same as the best. You see here, so from freedom to choose, and not waste time, come two things: performance, which is comparable with that of the best, and diversity. This behavior, this urge, is in each of us, and I said earlier in the river water on the area and everything. So this is natural. It happens. You cannot restrain it. You cannot dictate it, this happens. And in other words, this is the cause. And what I wrote here is the effect. And this is one way. I could leave the example right here. Those of you who enjoy the fun of acting as gadflies may try to ask yourselves whether you can reverse the direction of this arrow. That is, to start from here and try to arrive here. Just think about it. Whether you can do that, or whether the reverse direction of the arrow, in this case in human thought, but much more important in actual design evolution, is true. You can tell me next time we meet if that is part of nature.